Okay, so the fifth part, the fourth part, and the second part of the teaching present tenses to intermediate advanced levels. Okay, so continuing this system of distinguishing, present perfect stands for how many, and present perfect for continuous, it's for how long. If you analyze it, you will see it's like that. It's true. You can even draw this like a square, you know, four squares on the whiteboard, and right here like present simple, how often, present continuous when, perfect how many, perfect continuous how long, like that. Again, you could give your students some examples, and for example, я сегодня выпил 3 чашки кофе. How many? 3, да? Я пью кофе с 12 лет. How long? Like this. Okay, so again, the task is basically not to show formulas to the students because they know the formulas, but actually convince them that show the niche of, show the uniqueness of each tense for them to see that they really need to use them because something is missing otherwise. Anyway, so this is obviously practice for present perfect, and you explain that if there are some results, but it's in present, yeah. For example, you can show even when presenting present perfect to your lower level students, like elementaries, pre-intermediates. You could present perfect is so great to be shown with the experiments, I would say it. So for example, you could ask your students to leave the room for a while, for a couple of minutes, and you change something in the room. For example, you turn off the light, you open the window, you spread some perfume, maybe you you put some apples on the table. There are some changes anywhere. Anyway, so then they enter the room and then they see that like something has changed, or you can say that to them if they are low level guys and they will not create it by themselves. You can, and then you can ask like, guys, do you see how I did this? Did you see how I was doing that? And they say no, but how do you know that I did something? They say like, okay, there is evidence, something has changed, and you're saying exactly, this is what present perfect stands for. It's when you did something in the past, but now there are still visible the results of that. So the results of that like still influence your life, we can say it this way. For example, I have signed the document today. Yeah, so I did do that, but this will affect maybe my future year or maybe my future life. So anyway, still now it has some results. Or yeah, or for example, I have talked to her, so again something changed. Or I have seen this film, so it means that the film will be always in my head, and it will be influenced maybe my character, my faith, or my fate, or whatever. Yeah, so basically in this experiment, when something has changed in the room, you can like ask your students, look at the evidence which are spread around and tell me what changed. Like, I have changed 5 things, so tell me please what I have changed. So, and they will tell you the examples. This way you will show them, like literally show how to use it. Yeah, the same can be with for your students not live in the room, but for example, you light a candle, you spread some perfume, and you do something else, and again your students tell you what has happened. And then this is the presentational part, and you discuss it together with the students. Your students make their examples, and then they make their examples in this presentational part when they just look on what has they just look at what has changed, and they tell it to you. And basically then the next part starts. You remember the first part, presentation, then second, like discussion, students are getting used, then their examples, and then like mixture the material learned with the material they know, so speaking. Okay, so this is for the practice part, for this third stage, when they have already got the concept. Basically, it's time for them to start producing this kind of sentences and make it more natural and easy with each step. So they tell each other about, or you, about 3 results they have done today. Of course, you can start with your own examples, results, and then they make their results, or they can write them on the pieces of paper and exchange it to to their colleagues and discuss it together with groups like this. Yeah, so then you spread this understanding on their business as well, because students, usually students of intermediate, upper intermediate, maybe even advanced level, they ignore present perfect when it's time to be talking about results in business, for example. But in fact, they have to be using that quite often in business letters and everything. So for example, they could say it orally, and then you could give them as a home task to write a letter and include the 3 results in this letter. For example, in the form of a report, in the form of some request maybe to somebody, like, look guys, I have done this, so maybe could you please help me with the next stage, like this. Okay, so, and basically there are some more peculiarities which people know about, but they don't use it. It means they don't know them for well, obviously. So you discuss already, yeah, you explain that you put already in affirmative sentences and right before the main verb. For example, I have already done that. Have is an auxiliary verb and done is the main verb, and this way you put already, then you show your example, they make their examples, maybe there is some speaking activity after that. The same, yeah, I haven't done yet, you explain this difference. They're kind of the same, kind of equal, but still there are some peculiarities here. Again, you explain. Yet, yeah, highlight that in questions, the same as in negatives, people use yet. I mean, in English, we use yet, not already. For example, have you finished yet? Not have you finished already. Although it's possible in some variants, yeah, but the classical way is with yet. Have you finished yet? And your students make examples. This wonderful dream time, and here you could bring some illustrations, you could bring some pictures of Maldives or like skydiving or horse riding, whatever, and start this part with telling them a new story that, guys, I have always wanted to visit Maldives, I have always wanted to learn to ride a horse or something like that, and then they remember what they have always wanted but didn't do or haven't done yet. So again, you could mix your explanations. For some, you could just use this presentation and that's it, nothing more is needed. But for some, you can add some pictures, some emotions, some stories, and this way your lessons will be very exciting and time will be passing so quickly, and your students will like it because you give this emotional component and they feel it like you're the part of your story, and this way you remember much red and brighter, you know it. The next part, again, I have never done something, but what I want to do before I die, for example, or before I'm 30, before I'm 40, before I'm 50. Again, you could draw some story, you could show some more pictures here. The students will be excited. For scenes, again, people can confuse it. You just draw the timeline, yeah, and like I have been, and you put one day, for example, 3 months ago, let's say on the 1st of December, I started doing something. So I have been doing that for 3 months, or I have been doing that since the 1st of December, the 1st of September. It's so easy. You just explain it once and your students will know it and they will be using it because it's not so difficult. But again you explain, then they make their own examples to fixate. Speaking again, they could repeat this activity which you give them at the very beginning, or you could give some more variation or some different activity to them. It's just all this material they have just learned but already yet haven't done. I have always, I have never. They will have to include it in their speaking, mixing other grammatical tenses, regular, present perfect, and these like peculiarities which you have taught to them. This kind of activities could be used for all of the levels, starting from elementary, maybe pre-intermediate, to advanced level. You just give different vocabulary, but grammar remains the same, and your students have to automatically use it correctly. Okay, so as you see down, present perfect continuous. How long have you been doing something? Yeah. Again, you could draw this timeline, and basically you could just combine or show the difference between present perfect and present perfect continuous using the timeline. Yet I would recommend you to do that as a second step. The first step, again, storytelling. You could also bring some accessories, some things to class. Again, it will give the emotional wow effect, and basically if tell you if it's a secret information that we have quite competitive business, and there are quite many schools on the market of corporate English and English in general, and basically the ones, and the methodology is quite similar, the ones win which give this wow effect. That's why the more you give it to your students, but not too much, of course, but the more unreplaceable you will be for your students if you combine like serious knowledge of the subject, good methodology, good teaching skills, and wow effect. You will be irreplaceable for your students. So how you do it, this wow effect and this topic? I would recommend you to bring some paintbrush or something like that and pretend that you're painting walls. For example, it can be at the very beginning of the class, or at some stage of your class. You just start doing that. Your students are a little bit surprised, thinking that you're crazy again. But you just, tell them like, you sit on the chair and you say like, I'm so tired. I have been painting walls for 3 hours, and I have already painted under 3 walls, so I haven't painted 1 wall yet. And you write it, you tell it, and you write it on the whiteboard. And again, you just may ask your students, you remember they have to actively participate in your lessons all the time, even more than you. So you ask your students like, guys, what's really the difference? Is it one tense, or are they different? What's the difference? And so on and so on. And then as a second stage, you could remind them of present perfect continuous, or you could be presenting present perfect continuous for the first time, because in intermediate level program we present it for the first time. You could present it in this way, they will never forget it, and then show them on the timeline what's the difference between present simple, present continuous. Present simple, it's like, here I have done it, and that's it. And present continuous, or present perfect continuous, it's last in action. I have been doing that for 3 hours already. So you explain the concept, then you discuss some examples with your students. So you give parameter of how long, for example, for 1 week. So tell me, what have you been doing for 1 week? What have you been doing for more than 1 week? What have you been doing for more than 1 month? What have you been doing for more than 1 year? And this way they will be discussing. Yeah, and then you start maybe next lesson after they have digested, you know, and sorted out this material a bit. You go to peculiarities. You tell them that if there is a word recently, there is fat chance that no, there is very high chance that there is simple or present perfect simple or present perfect continuous. It just depends if the action finished or like not finished. Finished, it's like я сделал, я зробив. Yeah, I have done it. Сделал. Unfinished, so сделал, it's present perfect. Present perfect continuous is like делаю уже какое-то время. But recently can be used with both of that. Недавно, последним временем я сделал, много дел. Present perfect, obviously. Я делаю много дел последним временем. Is present perfect continuous. Like, and also you could explain them that present. What's the difference between present simple continuous and perfect perfect continuous? They have the depth. Oh, hello. They have like the depth, the prehistory to the event. So present simple and continuous, it just shows, you know, like these events, and that's it. We don't know what is the prehistory to these events. But present perfect, present perfect continuous, they show us the prehistory. For example, how long has it been happening, and so on. And here are just so yeah, and here it's time for your students to practice them on themselves with your help, and then less and less and less help. So you could just use these questions to be provoking them to be using present perfect continuous, and then of course they will have to complete some task on their own. For example, as a home task, they will have to write some little essay about whatever topic. About work, about books, about friend, or whichever topic you discuss with them and whichever is relevant to them, and they will have to use present perfect continuous 3 times as minimum. And again you could take some article from the internet and ask your students to highlight and translate their sentences in present perfect and perfect continuous. This can be used as a B test or just as a practice. Yeah. And then you remind them that non-progressive activity, they still work for perfect continuous as well. So for example, they cannot say, I have been liking it forever. I have always been liking it. No, it's not possible to say that. You just remind that to your students with more examples. Okay guys, so that's it so far with this presentation. Don't hesitate to add your own ideas, materials, activities to this presentation. It is editable. You can, you of course at first you bring your idea to our methodologist, and together with her you decide whether how to add this material, and whether it will be useful for other students. So, and then you add the material, and all the other teachers are enjoying that. And of course you will have to, you have to fill in the feedback form, and then in 1 week after walking out of this training, you will send a report, and with what kind of activities you used. Highly recommended is to use 3 activities from this training, maybe not only teaching this topic but teaching some other topics. Okay, thank you so much for watching. See you soon. Goodbye.